Okay, let's do it.
All
All
right.
right. Hey, it's Coach Kat, founder of Symphonic Mind Body Coaching. Welcome to the SMBC YouTube series Cat Chats, where I sit down with some incredible humans to explore how they move through life, find their rhythm, and stay balanced. I am so excited to introduce my good friend Nick. Nick is a group facilitator at 40 Years of Zen. He has a background in men's group facilitation and psychology studies at Loyola University Chicago. Shout out Chi-Town. Precision Nutrition Level 1 certified, and he also teaches some small group workout classes. Nick, welcome to the series. So good to see you today. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Kat. Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. Thank you for being here.
All right.
All right, so let's get into it. I know I gave a little intro for you, but who are you outside of the blurb? What do you do? Where are you from originally?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I'm Nick Ugo. I am a men's coach and facilitator. I'm originally from Chicago, and yeah, represent. Got the Bulls shirt there, and I'm currently in Austin, Texas, as working as a group facilitator for 40 Years of Zen, which is a retreat center here in the Austin suburbs.
Amazing. Cool. Very cool. We're going to get into exactly what 40 Years of Zen is and what you do there in a minute. But first, just a little background for the people. So Nick and I crossed paths about a year ago, Nick,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. I think it started in March. So
Yes.
that's it's still
Wow.
going on, yeah.
That's wow. It feels like we've been connected longer. That's that
Oh,
that that's why.
yeah.
But anyway, we were enrolled in a wonderful life coach certification program called Lumia. Shout out to Lumia for connecting us with some wonderful people. And I just kind of wanted to know. Let's start from there. What actually led you to pursuing a life coach certification?
Yeah, thank you. I would say that in my 20s and half of my 30s, I probably spent a lot of time, or what I would consider too much time, trying to meld purpose and career, and not wanting those two things necessarily to have a differentiation, them to be one and the same. And kind of went through different mentors and different avenues and different paths, and maybe career hopped a little bit. So I think ultimately what drove me to this work is wanting to become the person that I needed at the time, wanting to be able to help people through certain obstacles and road bumps in their lives, specifically men, young men, um, and even men into their 30s. I think men are hurting, and there's still a little bit of a stigma around men reaching out for help, and what that feels like or looks like. So I think that that's what's driven me. There's a quote that I read a long time ago that kind of stuck with me. It was, become the person that you needed the most. Become who it
Ooh,
is that you always needed. I'm paraphrasing, um, but that stuck with me. That stuck with me. So I think that there's a lot of transitions. I think that there's a shortage of men supporting other men, and I feel that I've always been a helper in the world. I mean, Kat, just as well as I do when you're called to this sort of work, right?
yeah.
You wind up being that person throughout adolescence and stuff that people bounce stuff off. Hey, let me ask you about this, or what do you think about this? Because the people that know you and love you and have gotten to know that you have that knack, right, to look at things in a way and be helpful and think outside of the box and maybe offer suggestions if it's warranted. So that's what led us to meeting and in the
Wow.
certification program.
That's fantastic. I never really asked you like the full details. Like I kind of had an idea of where you wanted to go with your certification, but I think that's really wonderful. I certainly think that we can use programs like that, more programs like that, and I
Hmm.
think that they need to be more accessible. So I love that you're going that route, specifically for young men. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it. I had about 15 years in real estate. And while that's helpful, that's a helpful job. You're literally helping people. Um, it became, less and less fulfilling for me over time. So that was the other piece, for me. I really wanted to kind of pivot into something that felt like it was more of what I was meant to do and I was making an impact.
Great, great. I love that. And so, you said that you're from Chicago. You lived in the Midwest for a while. You're now living in Austin, working at 40 years. You kind of like built this life around helping people both with fitness, and I know we're going to get into some music stuff a little later.
Hmm.
When you look back, like what is the through line that connects all of these dots?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say kind of similar to what I mentioned in terms of wanting to do the things that spoke to me, that I was passionate about, that lit me up, and seeking to segue those things into an income, a way to make money. I've been a musician for 30 years, and that's always played a role in my life. That's always a thing, but there's always been more. So health and fitness has played a role in my life. That was something I kind of picked up a little bit later in terms of a passion. That's been a 15 plus year passion now. But when you're, especially if you're playing music, and you're out on the scene, taking the best care of yourself isn't the highest priority when you're in when you're in
Right.
your early 20s and uh, and that sort of thing. But that came in, pretty quick, and so just kind of wanting to flex my passions and make that my life versus hey, these are the things that I love to do, and then this is the job that I have over here. I was really trying to combine all of that.
I do see how they all connect, and you really, when you speak about them, like you definitely light up, and
Yeah,
they all seem to like have this kind of natural, authentic flow when you
yeah,
talk about them, which I think is really cool.
yes, 100%. I appreciate it.
So, as both a musician and fitness professional, you work with rhythm in two very
Hmm.
different ways, right? So, like, how do you see rhythm showing up in the body, like physically, emotionally, religiously, spiritually, all of that?
Yeah, through the breath is a short answer, and I knew I was going to wind up getting into that with you in terms of breathing and that being kind of the gateway or kind of the entry point, and in terms of and for me as well in terms of my healing journey. And I think that it felt very natural because of the rhythmic quality to it. And as a musician, once I got into fitness, understanding the rhythmic quality of movement and pairing that with the breath. So when I teach fitness classes, I'm always saying, hey, there's a concentric motion and an eccentric motion, the push and the pull necessarily. And you have an inhale and you have an exhale. So for the most part, most workouts are going to be two directional, right? And you have an inhale and an exhale. So you should always be pairing the breath with the motion. And you know, I discourage holding. We have a tendency sometimes to hold our breath when we work out and
Sure.
that sort of thing. So all of that aligns. Our breath and our heart rate are directly tied. So all of that aligns, and it was a really natural, easy and natural segue for me into fitness, and especially as a teacher, as it pertains, like you say, to rhythm. You know, having the musical background and the drumming background for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you say, you say we hold our breath when we work out. We hold our breath, I think, all through life, all through the
All the
day. We
time,
get
yeah.
anxious, somebody cuts us off on the road, somebody messes up our order. We
Right,
we forget to breathe.
right. And it's not anything that we think about. Our body just kind of does it for us, and having a conscious awareness of the breath is great because I think it really it drops us into our body, out of our minds into our body, and it slows us down. Our breathing, for the most part, the breathing that's automatic for us that we don't pay attention to is typically pretty shallow. So bringing, it's kind of like a two-pronged win. So when you bring presence from the mind into the body, there's that, and slowing down the breathing is just really and filling the body with more oxygen than it's used to getting normal when it just breathes for you automatic is really, really beneficial.
Right. That's the key. That's the key to the rhythm. That's the key to the balance.
Yeah.
All right, so I feel like that's kind of a perfect segue to the next question, which is your work at 40 Years of Zen. So, for those who don't know, this is the latest venture from Dave Asprey, so the founder of Bulletproof Coffee. So, can you share a little bit about 40 Years of Zen and what you do there? What's your role there?
Yeah, 40 years is a week long, Monday through Friday, so 5 day retreat center here in the suburbs of Austin. And what we do is we teach a lot of somatic practices, but then there's measurements that are taken on the brain. And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned in my work there is that the brain is always responding to the body, and the body is always responding to the brain, essentially. So my role there is delving into the somatic practices and teaching people different somatic practices by way of various visualization practices. And when we go into visualization, what do we see, right? We encourage people to play things out depending upon the protocol that we're running as like a movie. And the focus then there is what comes up in the body. What do you feel? What do you feel in the body? Where in the body? Is there a temperature to it? Is there a color to it? And that sort of thing. And then on the neuro side, so then we have people kind of hooked up to some neuroelectrics. And on the neuro side, there are brain waves and frequencies that are being measured. So there's the theta, there's the delta, there's the subdelta, there's the alpha, there's the beta. And what happens is that when we give people various protocols and visual protocols, and then the brain is measured, and then we review the brain measurements with people, people kind of go into these meditation sessions for between 60 and 90 minutes. And then afterwards, we talk about, we give them a protocol. They go into the session with the protocol, whatever to work on, and then we debrief and talk about it afterwards. And then we also, within the debrief, review the brain waves from the meditation session that they just previously had. So we're looking at things and we're saying, hey, we have this gamma spike right here. You have this drop in alpha. Like, what was happening? What was going on in the mind there? And then you always bring it back to somatics, right? So what was going on? What were you thinking about, essentially? What was going on here? And be like, oh, okay, great. And then they run us through their version of the exercise that we gave them to do. And then we always come back to somatics. Like, where do you feel it in the body? What did it feel like, and where in the body? If there's a temperature associated with it, color associated with it. And basically the objective through the week is to work through different things that you're trying to add to your life and what integration would look like. And then as well as the opposite, work through a variety of things that are no longer yours to carry, things that you're trying to let go. And, as they say, the only way out is through. So we teach people to face whatever it is, face whatever the hard things are, whatever they're trying to add to their life and whatever they're trying to remove from their life. And it's very fulfilling and wildly successful work.
That's incredible. I want to dig into this a little bit more. It sounds very grounding, maybe a little scary in the middle. Like
You know what? Yeah,
know?
yeah. Oh yeah. It's all of those things.
Yeah.
The work fills me up. It's a lot, but we do it in small groups of between 3 and 4, and it's a
Oh,
big.
really small groups. Okay.
It's a lofty ask too. You have people show up and they're just getting vulnerable, real quick in a room full of strangers. So
Yeah.
but it feels great at the end of the week. Like yesterday was Friday, and we had a week's end, so it's like new cohort of people every week, right? Every Monday is
Okay.
a new, and every week is different. So it's great because there's it's a repetition on my part in terms of running people through the various protocols, but to see people's disposition change so drastically from Monday to Friday is really, really interesting. There's a lot of breakthroughs and a lot of aha moments that people are having, and a lot of tools that we teach that people can take with them and continue to integrate in their lives.
Wow, that's really profound. Have you tried it? Have you
Yeah.
done
Oh
like
yeah.
a whole week?
Oh
Okay.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, they make you do it as part of to be able to hold space and facilitate for other people.
Yeah.
The 1 week of just kind of like formal slash informal training. Um, Before going through the program, my second week of training was going through the program.
Wow.
So they had, one of the older facilitators. They moved the facility used to be in the suburbs of Seattle, and they moved it down here to the suburbs of Austin. So this pre-existing
Okay.
program for a little bit of time, and they brought in one of the older facilitators to see me and some peers of mine, some coworkers of mine, through the program just our second week, because they wanted us to know what it was and experience what it was, and essentially have our own breakthroughs so that we are able to know what it is from soup to nuts, and have add things to our lives that we're looking to add, let go of things that we're looking to let go of, and be able to hold space and successfully facilitate for others going through the program.
And I think that does make sense. That's actually really great that you all get to experience what it's like because you can talk through it. You can talk people down if they have any sort of anxiety about it. Well,
Oh
speaking of
yeah.
anxiety, actually, I am curious, like, have you had anybody kind of like go through midway and then just be like, I
Oh yeah.
can't handle
Oh yeah.
the rest of it?
Yeah. A runner, some runners. Yeah.
Really?
Sometimes, yes. There's been nobody that has left successfully, but people have
Okay.
said, "I want to leave."
Wow.
Yes,
And
that
how do you like center them and bring them back down?
it just keeps turning into questions. Not to simplify it too much, but it just keeps turning into questions about why, what just happened? Like, why are you thinking that? Why is that the move? What just happened? What was the thought that came up for you to lead you to that conclusion? And how do you feel? What are you feeling right now in your body? What do
Hmm.
you're wanting to make the decision to leave. So where are you feeling whatever it is that you're feeling in your body? And a lot of times it just kind of shows up for people as constriction, typically in like the belly and that sort of thing. So we try to teach the difference between constriction versus expansion and what that feels like in the body.
Hmm.
Um, because if there's anything that we're looking to change, it doesn't matter if we're looking to add something or let go of something. Change requires expansion, openness, allowing. And when you're closed off, you're not shedding anything, nor are you in an expansive state to allow things in.
Okay. I mean, that's really powerful. This
Yeah,
is really, really powerful. Like I'm so into I want to kind of go through this.
I
Maybe,
know it.
maybe a week is intense,
It's,
but the results sound so profound at the end.
yeah, and if there's ever any sort of, we talk about Monday is pretty light. My peers and I kind of talk about noticing, just noticing if there's any patterns and such. Um, Tuesday, Wednesday, midweek, end of Tuesday and maybe all of Wednesday are the harder days for people because we're not letting up. It's our job as a facilitator to push, continue to push, and let people
Okay.
not give, and continue to encourage people to excavate, not give vague answers. Have aha moments,
Hmm.
share details if questions are asked, versus oh, that was fine. Look at certain protocols, certain exercise. Hey, how did that go? Oh, it went great. And then we'll be like, okay.
Tell me more.
More.
Yeah.
So it can be triggering for people
Yeah.
to that don't care for any sort of variety of, which most of us don't care for any sort of variety of confrontation, especially if it's self-confrontation, right? So I can go on and on, Kat. There's so many nuances,
That's
and
why we're here. Go on.
yeah, there's so many nuances, so you just have to sit there and hold space. And it's for us as coaches, I think the most beautiful thing for me is that I get to really and truly, right, literally, figuratively, all the ways, I get to practice my craft every day because I have to push people in a way that they might very well push back. And, sometimes there's an outburst or that sort of thing. And we have to let it roll off and know that it's not personal and know that, hey, I'm as a coach, as a facilitator, I'm kind of bringing this on myself because I'm poking people that whether they want to be poked or not, they're getting poked in areas that they don't want to get poked in, right? And we're encouraging them, at the calmest and most compassionate level to face things that they don't want to face, haven't faced. There's a pattern that I'm noticing where people are just like, oh, I don't remember the XYZ portion of my childhood. I don't remember this. I don't remember that. And there's a big part of me that firmly doesn't believe that. I think that that's just the subconscious protecting us with memory suppression, because whatever it is that they're talking about that they can't remember is likely just too difficult to face.
Yeah, right, right. And we need to face it. And it's almost like you're putting these guys in a container and it's like, oh, you're here to face it.
Yeah,
You're here to reflect.
that's exactly right. And I teach people, again, the only way out is through. So you gotta move through the muck, and in order to free yourself, because if you bury it, people are really good at oh, I've done work and I've let go of that. I've moved on from that. I've let that go. I've let that go. And all I hear when people say that is that you've buried it, you've suppressed it. Whether you remember it or not, you've moved on because you just pretended it's not there. And anything that we bury will resurface until I mean, think about weeding. Think about it from a gardening standpoint, right? You just kind of pluck the weed from the top and not at the root. It's going to come back.
Right, right. It's gonna
So
show up in some aspect of your life.
time might go by where you're doing well, and you've gotten really good at burying things, but it will resurface. And I think that what is most rewarding is seeing people and seeing them come to the point where they have truly done the excavation and let go of whatever that thing is and realize what the rest of their life could look like and what that feels like in their body to truly be free of something that they deserve to be free of, thought that they were free of, quote unquote, because they suppressed it, but they've actually gone ahead and done the excavation and done the work and let go of whatever that is. And to see that realization in people and those light bulb moments and those aha moments is yeah. People get emotional, and it's hard to also not get emotional, and but it's all joy, sheer joy, and just realizations of freedom. Like, I'm free is what people say.
Wow. Yeah, that breakthrough moment is it's something else. It's heavy, but it's necessary work, right? If you do want to get to the freedom part of your life. And
100.
when you talked about like getting emotional and stuff, I was wondering like, you said the middle of the week was the hardest part of the program. Do
Mm-hmm.
you like are you coaching these three or four people as a small group? Or are you giving individual coaching, or how does that part work?
We typically keep it in group form.
Okay.
I will pivot and look at because we have a plethora of things going on throughout the day, Kat. So we, in our own way as facilitators, have somewhat of a schedule to keep. So we keep things as a group for the most part, as best as we can. We do pivot and make the time for individual attention if we see that it's necessary, which sometimes it can be. Um, I had to do it this past week where you notice that people, they're kind of there, you notice there's more there, and you know that they could maybe get there with some more poking, but you can tell that there's a comfort level that they don't have in front of other people. And so I'll notice those things and pull people aside. But for the most part, we want people to be vulnerable in a small group because of the subconscious accountability that it brings, right? Like, oh, I've said this, I shared this, not just with my facilitator, but in front of this group. And, they're going to remember this story and they're going to wind up holding me to it. There's a subconscious accountability that comes into play when we are sharing things collectively in a small group. And that is helpful for people. There's a connection that's built. There's bonding that happens in a short period of time when people are able and willing to have that vulnerability in a small group. But because it's just the 5 days, Kat, by like Wednesday, if I'm seeing I'm just like, okay, I'm going to need to pull this person aside and poke them a little more on my own, where they don't feel that there's an audience and that sort of stuff, because it's only 5 days and we want people to get the most out of the program. So by Wednesday, if we see that this person is just kind of, keeping it to surface,
yeah,
then we go in, and in order to go in, sometimes we got to pull them aside.
right. And I really like that, I actually think it's smart that you're kind of coaching in small groups like this
Mm-hmm.
with this program, because everyone can hold each other accountable. Like you're all facing the same things. You're
Mm-hmm.
all, opening yourselves up to strangers. You've all had hardships and you're all struggling to push past it and get through it.
100%. And it's the connection that it builds that people don't realize that is such a necessary, people realize it by Thursday, Friday, as long as they've been willing to share at the group, at the group
Right.
level, like within the group, people realize the benefits of having done that in a group, because the connections that are built, and people are, razzing each other and joking and inside jokes and stuff because of stories that are shared are happening, by Thursday. And I think that that's fully accredited to the group, us
Yeah.
doing things in small groups.
Great. Very cool. Well, I just have a couple more questions before I let you go today.
Sure.
So, can you share with us what's next on the agenda? What's the next chapter for Nick looking like?
Yeah. Well, my work at 40 years will remain, and it's beautiful to be here in Austin, and it's incredibly fulfilling work, and I have an amazing team of people that I work with. So, that will remain, and the next thing for me personally is I'm going to be building a men's coaching program. I'm going to be focused in somatics, be focused in relationship healing, masculine, feminine dynamics, which is a super recent total fascination for me. Like
Yeah.
I've been nerding out about all that. So, um, trying to see how I can intertwine it into the men's group, just kind of being open to it, and seeing what type of program I might be able to develop. So looking for, somatics going to come into play, definitely going to come into play. That's been a thing that I've learned and realized is super important, going back to talking about the breath. And so relationship stuff, masculine, feminine dynamics, and debating if I want to throw like a fitness or a nutrition component in there or not, but definitely a men's focus. I think men are hurting and need to be able to support each other and to step up to the next level. So that's what's on the horizon.
Right. Support each other and heal.
100%.
That's great. Well, I'm excited. I'm so excited for your next journey.
I appreciate it, Kat. Likewise, same for you.
Last question before I let you go.
Yeah, for
If
sure.
you could share with us one somatic or mind body practice, what's like your go-to?
Breath work, 100%. In through the nose, out through the mouth,
Right.
putting a same count to it, 6 count, 8 count, and bringing yourself from the mind into the body, back into the senses. That was the biggest thing that I learned is, and especially if you're outside, it's real easy. Like, what do you see? What do you hear? How does the air feel on your skin?
Okay, I love that, and I think the nature aspect is key. That's the key right there.
Right, 100%.
Amazing. Well, this was so much fun. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for joining me today, Nick.
good.
And
Thank
it's
you,
just
Kat.
it's always a pleasure to see your face. And
Likewise.
thank you all so much for tuning in to Cat Chats. Take care.